Good evening and welcome to ITV Calendar News.
Yes, hello. Thank you for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
Fire tragedy. 4 people, including 3 children, die after a blaze in the early hours. As Bradford detectives launch a murder inquiry, neighbours talk of their shock.
When you consider the age of the children, and the mother, then it will send shockwaves through this community.
Also tonight, killed protecting his van. A driver is left dying in the road after he tried to stop a thief stealing his vehicle, which was later abandoned.
Peacekeeper turned criminal. The Army veteran sentenced for his part in violent disturbances in South Yorkshire is told by a judge his actions were disgraceful.
And turning heads, we catch up with the equestrian team hoping to saddle Paralympic GB with medals. So first tonight, the tragic and upsetting news that 4 people, including 3 children, have died in a house fire in Bradford as police launched a murder inquiry.
The blaze broke out in the early hours of this morning. A 29-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the scene and 3 children aged between 1 and 9 died in hospital.
Well, Adam Fowler is live for us tonight in Queensbury. And Adam, police have this afternoon named those who died, haven't they?
They have indeed, yes, absolutely devastating news here. The blaze broke out here on Westbury Avenue just after 2 o'clock in the morning. And as you say, in the last few hours, police have named those victims. They are 29-year-old Bryony Gowith, 9-year-old Dennisty Birtle, 5-year-old Oscar Birtle, and the youngest, Aubrey Birtle, who was just 22 years old. The mother, Bryony, was pronounced dead at the scene. The children a short time later in hospital. A 39-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder and he remains in hospital in a critical condition. Earlier this afternoon, Superintendent Lucy Leadbeater had this to say.
Whilst inquiries are at their early stages, we believe that the fire was started deliberately and this incident was domestic related. Detectives from our homicide and major inquiry team have launched a murder investigation into the fire.
Well, multiple enquiries are ongoing today. We've seen forensic investigators entering the property. Specially trained officers are supporting the family and extra officers are carrying out what they call reassurance patrols as well. And police are appealing for anyone who may have information or footage from dash cams, doorbells or CCTV to share it with them as well.
Adam, I know you've been speaking to neighbours today. There must be such a sense of shock in the community.
Yes, the reaction here has been one of disbelief and devastation. You can see here, even now, people leaving flowers, and those floral tributes have been growing throughout the day. Among them, messages like Bryony and your 3 angels, gone way too soon, you will be missed. Another says, I can't put it into words how heartbroken I am. I will never forget you, and those beautiful smiles. And I spoke to neighbours earlier on today who very much echoed those sentiments.
Went to the bedroom window and I seen that the front door there were flames coming out the door. So I woke my partner up who was in the car and I said, Richard, the house is on fire.
I didn't know the family, I didn't know the people involved, but I know the community, and I know it's a community that sticks together and looks out for each other. And when you consider the age of the children, and the mother, then it will send shockwaves through this community.
Just devastated. Don't happen. It's a very tight area here. You don't see anything like that. I've lived here 14 years, never seen anything.
So this is very much a community in shock, and one that will no doubt need to come together in the coming days as it continues to process this devastating and tragic news.
Adam Fowler live in Bradford for us tonight. Thank you very much. Well, next this evening, another murder inquiry, this time in Leeds, after a delivery driver was left dying in the street. When he was thrown from the van, he was trying to protect as it sped off.
When police and ambulance crews arrived, he was unconscious. with members of the public trying to save his life. But he died at the scene a short time later. The van was later found abandoned. Lisa Adlam reports.
Detailed examinations of the scene in Leeds today, where a delivery driver died while he was simply doing his job. Police were called to Heights Drive on the border of Armley and Workley just before 7 last night, where the man, who was in his 40s, was found seriously injured in the street. Despite attempts to help him by members of the public and the emergency services, he died at the scene. Police say he'd been making a delivery around half a mile away on Alliance Street when a thief attempted to steal his van. As he tried to stop him, the man drove off at speed, with the delivery driver hanging from the passenger side. The van hit 2 parked cars on Heights Drive, leaving the delivery man in the road. The van was found abandoned in the Belle Isle area a short time later. As a large part of the road was closed today, officers from West Yorkshire Police were speaking to witnesses to build a picture of the moments leading up to the attempted theft and before the van was abandoned 6 miles away. They're calling on anyone with CCTV footage or that from dash cams or doorbells to get in touch to help them track down the person responsible for what they called a truly shocking incident.
Well, let's join Lisa Adlam live now. And Lisa, is anything more known about the driver?
Well, Ian, tonight we understand that his name is Claudio Carol Condor, and police say that, of course, his family are totally devastated by what happened here yesterday evening. And just before we came on air, in fact, I spoke to one lady who was one of those who received parcels from Mr. Condor last night. She said he regularly delivered to her home nearby, and she was really upset, too upset to come on camera, but she said he was a lovely man, he had a lovely smile, and he was a really hard worker. We do know that he worked for a delivery company contracted to Amazon, and today Amazon said that their thoughts and deepest sympathies were with his family, his loved ones and his colleagues, and they've said they will do all they can to assist police with their investigation.
Thank you, Lisa. That's Lisa Adlam reporting live from Leeds for us. An army veteran who did 3 peacekeeping tours of war zones like Bosnia and Northern Ireland has been told his actions during the rioting near Rotherham were disgraceful and have left his life in tatters.
Peter Beard was among the latest jailed following the disturbances on August the 4th. Even before today, 19 people had been sent to prison after hearings at Sheffield Crown Court alone.
The judge involved in today's case and many of the others relating to the disturbances, the Recorder of Sheffield, Jeremy Richardson KC, seen here at a previous hearing, has handed out terms ranging from 16 months to more than 3 years. Our
reporter Jonathan Brown has been in court for us. So, Jonathan, some surprising stories in court today.
Yes, that's right, Lara. The judge in this case described Peter Beard's actions as astonishing, given his history as a British Army peacekeeper abroad. Beard is a 43-year-old father of 3 who served with the Royal Green Jackets for 5 years between 1998 and 2003. More recently, he'd been working as a railway engineer. But today the court was told how he went from being a victim of mob violence to becoming the perpetrator himself on August the 4th. That's because that's when he got involved in a mass protest outside the Holiday Inn Express Hotel in Wath, which was housing asylum seekers. After rioters began throwing missiles and setting fire to bins, police body cam footage showed Beard at the front of the mob. He was seen pushing officers who were trying to usher the crowds away from the besieged hotel. Now today, his defence solicitor, Emma Coverley, said he'd shown a great deal of remorse for his actions because he knew what it felt like to be on the other side of that riot shield. But Judge Jeremy Richardson, KC, said the unrest was racist in character and that Beard was part of the ignorant mob behind it. He was jailed for 2.5 years. Another man that we saw jailed today was 50-year-old grandfather of 7, Michael Bailey. He had no previous convictions, but today pleaded guilty to violent disorder and criminal damage of a police van. Bodycam footage showed him telling officers it's happening today. That hotel's getting burned down. The judge said that he uttered those words gleefully. He was given 2 years and 4 months in prison.
And Jonathan, we've seen some others appear in court charged with the most serious offences, haven't we?
Yes, in fact, the judge today said that the most serious case of all of those that he's seen linked to the Rotherham disorder was seen in court today. Thomas Burley, who's 27 and from Swinton in Rotherham, pleaded guilty to attempted arson with intent to endanger life, violent disorder and possession of an offensive weapon, namely a police baton. The court heard how he placed a wooden panel on a bin that was on fire and blocking the fire escape in the hotel. The judge said that these offences carry the maximum possibility of a life sentence. He said that he wouldn't rule anything in or out today. Burley will be sentenced next Friday.
OK, that's Jonathan Brown reporting live from Sheffield Crown Court. Thank you. And you can keep up to date with the latest developments in this story and, of course, all the other news and sport from around our region on our website, itv.com/calendar.
Now, the Home Secretary and West Yorkshire MP Yvette Cooper has announced new measures to boost border security, enforce immigration rules and increase deportations.
Well, the measures include hiring up to 100 specialist officers at the National Crime Agency to dismantle criminal smuggling gangs and prevent dangerous boat crossings.
Yesterday, Calendar brought you the voices of asylum seekers living in West Yorkshire, some of whom arrived on a perilous boat journey across the Channel, who said they were frightened and concerned by recent events which have resulted in those jail sentences we've just heard about.
Well, earlier I spoke to Alessandra Sicaria, who's Head of Policy and Public Affairs at the St Vincent de Paul Society, the charity working with those men we filmed yesterday. And I started by asking if she welcomed the Home Secretary's announcement.
We do not believe that some of the measures announced today will address the issues with our asylum system. There are issues with the way in which our asylum system is currently set up, which does not provide dignity to people. However, we are concerned that the measures announced today are not going to address the problem. Detention is a really brutal way of dealing with people and families who have experienced violence and conflict and have experienced trauma. And deportation and detention are not appropriate ways of providing protection for people who have flown from violence and conflict and are now seeking safety. What we do need is for more compassion and for a dignified language, which can really help to ease some of the tensions that we have seen over the past couple of weeks and to foster a constructive dialogue.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because obviously, as you say, a lot of people have fled violence and they've come to this country for safety, and then they find themselves in these terrible situations with a lot of aggravation and hatred directed towards them. So what have you made of what you've seen over the past few weeks?
Well, we were very shocked and very saddened by the events that have taken place over the last couple of weeks, the very violent events. We had to close several of our centres, of our services across England and Wales as a result of these events because our staff, volunteers and people were really scared of being attacked. We spoke to many refugees and asylum seekers who were absolutely terrified by the images that they saw of the hotel being broken into. But we also know that this was a very small group of people who was whipped up by misinformation online, and dealing with the events we have seen is now a matter for the police. However, we must challenge the misinformation which has led to these events.
And is it about changing perceptions at the end of the day, about the way we think about asylum seekers?
Absolutely. And it's incredibly important to change these perceptions. A lot of the work that we do at the SVP is about helping people who are experiencing poverty or are simply isolated or lonely, regardless of their background, where they were born or their current situation. And in our centres across the country, we see people of all backgrounds and walk of life coming together. And most people we know in this country are not concerned with someone's country of origin. They just see the person in front of them. So we really think that there's an urgent need for government to promote and support these kind of initiatives that can bring people together rather than divide them. And there is a lot to celebrate in our communities. We have seen more initiatives popping up to show compassion and welcome people from all walks of lives. We need more of these initiatives which can bring together communities, but these spaces for communities to come together have slowly disappeared over the years.
Well, it's very interesting to talk to you. Alessandra, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Calendar. Thank you.
Thank you.
OK, still to come on the programme tonight. On the hoof, the para-equestrians getting into the saddle to bring back gold for Paralympic GB.
And we've had some fairly strong winds cantering through the Corn today. There'll be even stronger winds galloping over the Pennines by the end of tonight. All the detail a little later on.
Well, it's been a busy news day, so let's get some more stories from around the region. And the inquest into the death of a former miner whose body lay undiscovered for more than 50 years opened today. Alfred Swinscoe was 54 when he disappeared after a visit to a pub in Nottinghamshire in 1967. His body was found on farmland only last year during construction work. Assistant Coroner Rebecca Covington said a provisional cause of death had not been determined. Last week, police identified 2 murder suspects thought to have been involved in Mr Swinscoe's death. The hearing has now been adjourned.
There are calls for wildlife crime to be taken more seriously as a new report reveals a rise in the shooting of birds of prey, illegal fox hunting and egg thefts. The research from the International Fund for Animal Welfare also shows almost 1 in 4 people in Yorkshire have watched content online involving animal cruelty.
I've given 22 years almost of my policing career to tackling wildlife crime. My team are the same. We feel that we hold the keys and hold the knowledge to make wildlife crime a hostile place for criminals and a better place for our animals.
Now, more than a third of British berry growers face going out of business within the next 2 years without more support. That's according to the industry body who are representing them.
Yes, that's right. Despite sales of homegrown strawberries, raspberries and blueberries reaching an all-time high, spiralling transport and labour costs, along with a more volatile climate, have seen farmers struggle to turn a profit.
Many are now considering leaving the industry altogether, despite our supply relying heavily on local producers. Nick Smith reports.
When it comes to summer berries, it's often said they taste even sweeter when they're homegrown. But those in this industry are finding it harder to get a return for the fruits of their labour. Heather Copley has been offering berry picking on her farm near Pontefract and says price rises across the board have made it more and more difficult to produce soft fruits.
Water's gone up, fertilisers have gone up, the agrochemicals have gone up, literally everything, the packaging materials, everything has gone up. You can see the negatives or you can see the positives. So we try to make sure that we run our business as efficiently as we can and try to save costs wherever we can.
Fresh strawberries like this are now ripe for the picking after months of warmer summer weather. But the future of British berry growers could be hanging in the balance. It's an industry which is becoming less and less profitable. Up to 40% of these farmers could go bust in the next 2 years.
Over the last 3 years, the cost of production of fresh berries in the UK has risen by 30%, driven mostly by the cost of hourly paid labour. We surveyed our membership this spring. Nearly half of growers reported not having made a profit for 2 years.
And we even face seeing a mostly homegrown crop disappear, despite huge demand for locally sourced fruit.
If we look at British berries, they're produced all over the UK and they're delivered to local supermarket depots the day after picking. Imported berries have to be trucked for hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles. So their actual carbon footprint is massively greater than British berries, which isn't good for the environment, and that wouldn't be something people want to see on a large scale.
Some fresh growers have already decided to call it quits. Jenny Connor used to grow berries and apples to be sold straight after picking, but has now reverted to making and selling her own jam as a more stable income.
Certainly cost is an issue. We can't compete on cost of our product with imported products in the supermarkets, which are unreasonably cheap. Even though they may seem expensive, they really can't represent the full cost of producing that fruit.
The government says they are reviewing seasonal worker visa schemes to ease labour issues for farmers. While the British Retail Consortium says supermarkets know they need sustainable relationships with growers and are paying more for produce. But it may take more drastic intervention to prevent an industry exodus and keep British berries forever in our baskets. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Those strawberries look delicious, don't they?
They certainly had some for my breakfast this morning, in fact.
Oh, lovely.
I did.
Strawberries, blackberry season now.
Yeah. No, I just had strawberries though this morning.
With cornflakes.
No corn.
Oh, okay.
Just strawberries.
Some corn.
Shall we move on?
Also fruitless over the last few weeks is the rainbow. I've hardly seen any rainbows, so it all made up for it last night. Did you see it?
Oh, it's amazing.
Drove out from work, out for my tea, in the skies. Bit of a big old downpour, but yes, some rainbows. A big thank you for all of your shots. This one's a double one, of course. The brighter inner rainbow is reflected through the raindrops in the fainter outside rainbow, which of course is the colours are the opposite way round, which you can see a little bit more clearly in Diane's here from Norton in Doncaster. Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. And most of the rainbows were spotted. Of course, each one is individual to a lens or our own eye. Never the same rainbow, just unique to us. We're spotted in the north and the west. And Emily Rose spotted this one on her way home from Featherstone to Castleford, and she said she got absolutely soaked, but it was absolutely worth it. I've saved this one to last. I was getting there. An Arcus cloud, or also known as shelf cloud, often they form at the base of cumulonimbus clouds, and it's the cold air coming out of the downpour which uppercuts the warm moist air rising, and then it evaporates and gives that lovely shelf. Often some fairly strong and gusty winds though associated with that, so I think Sue's evening stroll was probably disrupted by some strong and gusty winds, which is pretty much the theme for the forecast over the next few days, which is not great news, is it, if you're going to a festival or you're going to a York races tomorrow. So you're going to need extra pins for the hair and extra tent pegs as we head through the next couple of days. It is looking very windy, and of course high tide, so coupled with high tides with some big old waves for the next couple of mornings for sure. But everything does look like it's easing a little bit through the weekend. Of course, we'll have the forecast a little later on.
And this is all because of the bank holiday weekend coming up, isn't it? That's
yeah,
why.
Of course. It's not a washout, I promise. It's promise. It's
OK.
Brilliant, thank you.
Now then, it's often described as ballet on horseback, and it'll be the only artistic sport in the upcoming Paralympic Games.
4 athletes will be competing for Great Britain in the para-equestrian, also known as para-dressage, which is a sport that has a loyal fan base here in Yorkshire.
Certainly does. So we've been finding out more about the sport and the benefits riding can have for those with disabilities as part of our special Paralympic series. Here's Lauren Hoare.
At the heart of this sport is a unique bond between horse and rider. George Robinson Thomas from Bradford has been coming to Cliff Hollins Riding School for the past 10 years as part of a programme for riders with disabilities.
So the horses help me calm me down, and they're a way of relaxing me, and they're way keeping you safe and relaxing, and they're very therapeutic through the grooming and the riding.
That's a sentiment shared by Paralympic dressage rider and gold medalist Natasha Baker.
Hey gorgeous girl, how you doing?
She's part of the para-equestrian squad and will be in action next month.
I am super excited about competing in Paris. We're competing in the Palace of Versailles in their gardens, and the arena just looks unreal. Heading out to my 4th Games, and yeah, I think I'm as excited as I was for the first.
The first was the London Games in 2012, where she picked up not 1 but 2 golds. 3 more followed in Rio and a team gold in Tokyo, some of the many successes she's had in her career.
So this little purple one here is my first ever sash from the RDA National Championships back in 2000. And then I've also got my Paralympic rosettes as well. So from London, Rio and Tokyo.
And hopefully we'll have a few more of these.
I hope so.
In a few weeks' time.
Fingers crossed.
Things are a bit different this time around. Natasha's now a mum, so has been balancing parenting with her intensive training.
Coming back after giving birth to this little one and how well she's come back, we're super proud, aren't we? Yeah? Are you super proud of Mummy?
Natasha says she couldn't do it without them, or without her beloved horse Lottie.
She is my dancing partner, my soulmate, and she's just the kindest horse. The most beautiful thing about our sport is, you know, they don't carry any judgment. Any person with any form of disability can get on a horse and have a relationship with them, whether that be at grassroots level or right the way through to the Paralympic Games. And I think that's what is so special.
The pair of them are now making their final preparations. And however well they do in Paris, It's clear this is already a winning partnership.
Good girl.
Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Oh, so passionate.
Oh, lovely, isn't it? I'm terrible on a horse, you know. I wouldn't be very good on a horse.
Would you not?
Well, yeah, I can't get on it. Not with my back.
Oh, you've got a bad back?
I've got a bad back. And, well, I'd just be, oh, no. I'd be terrible. I really would.
Let's go to Kerry now with the weather on that thought.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. Yes, strong winds are the focus for the next 36 to 48 hours or so, but we held on to that sunshine for quite a while during the course of today. Lovely morning moon first thing, plenty of blue sky, and just about holding on until early afternoon before that cloud started to push its way in from the north and west and the showers started to develop. It's a breezy old situation as we head through tonight. Strong and gusty winds towards dawn and another system pushing its way through during the early part of Friday. But you can see a clearance, and hopefully this front and this front stay to the north and south of us as we head into the weekend. But in the meantime, for this evening and overnight tonight, just the cloud thickens, the winds strengthen, really becoming quite strong and gusty, especially over the hills by the time we reach tomorrow morning. And that's where we'll see the heaviest of the outbreaks of rain by the time we reach dawn. Ahead of that, still quite dry conditions, but actually holding a lot of moisture, so feeling quite damp and quite muggy as we head towards tomorrow. 5:58 and 8:19 are you sometimes as we head into Thursday. Not a great start Thursday, a blustery start, quite a lot of cloud, showery outbreaks of rain, heavy at times, especially over higher ground. But as we head towards the afternoon and early evening, much better, still blustery, but drier and brighter, with highs at best the average 20 to 22 Celsius. Then a brief respite before that further system comes through during the early hours of Friday. A very wet spell, could be an extremely windy spell right over the tops of the Pennines, but it does once more improve to drier, brighter conditions for Friday. A few more showers Saturday, but at this stage not too bad for Sunday or Monday either.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go, weekend not too bad, but a little bit October-ish over the next 36 hours or so for sure.
OK, Kerry, thank you very much indeed. Well, I've had to bring you some sad stories this evening, and if there are any developments in those, we'll bring them to you in our late bulletin at 10:30. But for now, from all of us on Calendar, good night.
Bye-bye.